Hi, and welcome to According to Weeze, the podcast. With me, your girl Weeze. This is a show where we're going to have candid conversations with the hopes of finding a way forward in community. See, fundamentally, I believe that we exist at the intersection of our complex identities, politics, and our sociocultural systems. And let's be real, the only way to dismantle it all is to dissect it. So get cozy, get comfy, and let's dive in. Y'all, I am so excited for this episode. Not only because it's going to be really informative and great, but one of my favorite people decided to join me. I don't even know how to basically my chosen family, my big brother, one of my very best friend in the whole world's brother. So I'm very fortunate and lucky that he adopted me. We have Mario on today. Say hello to the people, Mario.
Hey, how you doing, people? And thank you for that good introduction, Weeze. It was amazing. I love you too, though.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't even know all the things. But yeah, so I wanted to have you on today because, well, and again, I'm gonna say this just real blunt as hell. Everybody swears that I hate cops, like swears that I hate cops, and I'm like, I don't hate cops. I have a problem with all of our institutions because all of our institutions serve whiteness. So I don't hate police officers. I hate I hate the bad ones, right? I hate the ones that are upholding whiteness. I hate the ones that are using the badge and the gun to cause harm. But like as I'm not just like looking at every cop and being like fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. And this is like when white people be like, but I have a black friend. I'm like, oh, but I have a brother who's a cop or a retired cop. So that is what we're going to talk about today. Today, we're just going to have a conversation from an actual Black man who also has the intersecting identity of, even though you're retired, police officer. So you have that experience. I just thought it was important to come on and have to talk about some things because you've been in it and you have the actual experience and understanding. But before we do that, what do you want the people to know about you?
Well, I did 13 years on the police department in the city of Atlanta. I was on the gang task force. I did a lot of undercover work. I was on a few strike teams, did advice, hit a lot of warrants, arrested a lot of people, bad people that should have went to jail for the crimes that they committed, everything from the drug dealer to the rapist, murderer. I've seen it all, done it all, and I can definitely attest to the fact that the good cops hate the bad cops as much as the community, whether you believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, I can echo that just in the fact that you're actually not the only police officer I know. Surprise, surprise. Because a lot of people are cops. And I just happen to be in community with, the quote unquote good ones. And some of the things that I've heard from y'all, I'm just like, it gives me more reason to hate the bad ones, but like, I'm like, God bless y'all. Cause you stay in it. I mean, you're retired now, but still like 13 years, right? Like you stay in it and you keep fighting because you truly believe in like protecting and serving.
It's funny when I got hired, I was trying to figure out how could I help my community. Mind you, I'm not from Atlanta, and I couldn't figure it out. And at the time, the Buffalo Police Department was requiring some things that I didn't meet those qualifications. And so Atlanta had came to Buffalo to recruit. And I took the test and I passed. And so I said, well, I'm gonna go down there and help. And I've enjoyed every bit of my 13 years, even the bad times. I've enjoyed it all because it's all helped me to have a well-rounded view in a lot of the things that's going on today. And a lot of it is messed up, it's bad, and people don't realize it. And like I was just reading, it's funny, I was just reading before we got on about how the Atlanta police is dealing with a shortage. They're blasting it all over the news. But it's real funny because they've been dealing with that same shortage for the last 10 years. But now it's on the news and it looks as if it's because of everything going on. And it's actually not. When I retired, I remember I retired on December 14, 2016. And Atlanta APD did not publish my retiring until the end of January. in their numbers so that when they report month numbers in December, it doesn't look as if so many officers were leaving at the same
Yeah.
time. So spread it out. Now they're just being truthful with the numbers, just so it looks as if it's because of what's going on now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. I was looking at that too and I was like, this isn't news. Cause like even when I lived there and you were still on the force, I was like, this has been forever. That's always been a problem. Um, yeah, it's and that's a whole other conversation around the ways in which, media will take a part of a truth and spin
Oh yeah.
it, to make it something else. But yeah, anyone listening, please know that if you read that, the shortage is not because of the, current uprisings or anything that's happening in Atlanta. This has been an ongoing issue that Atlanta PD has been facing.
The shortest back then was because of pay,
Yeah.
and the pay still isn't good.
You're
You add the pay, and you add 12-hour shifts and 16-hour shifts. They still gonna leave. They
Yeah.
still ain't getting no, and now they working longer. So it's like, why be overpaid? I mean, underpaid and worked over. I might as well go start a lawn care business and cut grass.
Right.
If you cut 10 lawns a day and charge $40 a lawn, that's $400 a day.
Yeah.
You're looking at $2,000 a week, where an officer might bring home $1,000 every 2 weeks.
Damn.
It's
Damn.
not worth it.
I mean, I guess I understand why people be making deals with drug dealers and shit. I'm not saying I would do it. I'm just saying when you put it like that, like, people got to feed their families. Anyways, neither here nor there. And I do want to get back to officers leaving, but I think where I really want to start our conversation, because every time, just in the years that I've known you, every time there's like you're talking about either your experience in the police force or just like your perspective of the things that are, kind of going on. I always learn something new. Always. Always. Well, I mean, about things in general, but right. That's what big brothers are for. But, specifically around policing. And so I really want to start our conversation around, this notion that, the police as an institution are out here, that how do I frame this without leading the witness? that they are trained in other ways and that they choose to kind of like break their training specifically for Black folk. And what I mean by that is we see a lot of times where, you'll see like a white, we'll call him a perp because I'm talking about cop, ex-cop. You'll see a white perp and he has a weapon, right? And he's doing all sorts of wild shit with like a knife, or he's like flipping around on the ground and the officers are tussling with him, and like maybe they get cut, maybe they get punched, but somehow he just gets arrested and taken off to jail, right? Versus Black folk who are either running away or, hands up, hands on the steering wheel, are still being murdered.
Right.
And so a lot of the conversation, which I actually think is the conversation in general is misguided because it's obviously a larger issue. But I want to start there around training, because the narrative that's come out that I've been seeing a lot on the internet is like, oh, well, police officers are clearly trained to, to diffuse situations, to de-escalate, to not use their weapons, to shoot people in the leg or the arm, like to disengage them. And that's why we see them using appropriate training with white folks, and they're just choosing not to use their training with Black folks and folks of color. And that's not actually true. So not all the time, right? So can you talk to us a little bit so we have an understanding of like, how are police officers trained to engage with community in general? And then specifically, how are they trained to engage with a threat? And then if there is a threat where like there's a weapon, right? Or like a potential threat to life.
So the easy one I'll go for first, which is the weapon part. The Supreme Court allows an officer to go one level up when use of force, depending on what the perp or the person is doing. So the
So
first
one
level.
level up, meaning if I have a knife and you have a gun, you can use your gun.
So yeah. So
Okay.
basically, if you have a knife, I can use my gun.
Okay.
So the first level is police presence. That's the first sign of authority, is me just showing up to the scene like, hey, here. you couldn't handle it. That's why the police are called, because usually because you couldn't handle the situation with your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your neighbor, this person at the store. So they call the police to come handle it. After that, then of course, then there's talking. But if you have a brick, the Supreme Court says, I don't have to try and tackle you to disarm you from that brick. I can shoot you because that brick can cause bodily harm or death. And so we have to, it says brick, a huge rock, brick. If you get hit in the head, think about it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
So it allows them to go one level up. And so with some of those things, when it comes to the weapon and with shooting in the leg, if anybody goes to your local gun range and they ask to be trained, I promise you, they will not pull out any target with the leg on it, whether it's police, civilian, military. The targets that have legs and all of that other funny, cute stuff are the ones with the zombies and the ones with the little cute stuff, the fun stuff. But in actual training, the only way to surely stop a threat is center mass or headshots. And so the only thing that is on that target is a torso and a head. They're purposely no arms and no legs, because in a high stress situation, when you're actually in fear for your life, you don't have time to aim for that little arm or that little leg, because you're in fear for your life and it can end in seconds. So you aim for the biggest part, which is center mass, which is going to be the chest area. And then after center mass doesn't work, then it's usually 2 to the chest, 2 to the head. That's the way they train in military, police, and you go to your local gun range. Like if I go to Stoddard's or anywhere else around Georgia that have training, that target is going to not have legs. Just Google it. Google training target, police or military or civilian training target. It's going to be a green target with a white background, and it's going to have a silhouette of a person's torso and head. It's going to have a box in the middle of the chest, and that's where you get your high points at. And it's going to have a small line that goes up the throat, up to the eyes, and those are where you get your points from, and that's how you're scored. Anything outside of that box is less points than anything inside of the box. And you always train in anything you do, whether it be basketball, football, shooting, anything, for higher scores, because that's the only way it could be effective. People have gotten shot in the stomach and still killed the other person and lived and went to the hospital. It's not there.
Yeah, the first time you actually said that to me, I first went back and thought about, like, even in like movies, when I've been in, to the gun range, I'm like, dang, I've actually never seen legs and arms on a dummy. Even in like training for kickboxing and boxing, when they have human dummies, they're always just like on a stand. Like there's never arms or legs in any sort of official training capacity. And I was like, right. You don't, right? Like, obviously, if that's not your lane, right? I'm not worried about killing people or like defending myself on a regular basis in that way. So it's one of those things, subtly in the back of your brain, like, it, but you don't actually think about it. Right. But then when you frame it like that, it makes a lot of sense as to now when I go back and I'm like, just from a personal perspective of like, well, why did they, why would you shoot somebody in the, in what is it called? Center mass, right? In center mass.
Right.
Well, if you're high stress and that's all you've been trained to do, your natural human instincts are going to kick in. You're going to shoot somebody center mass.
Well, the purpose of shooting them, period, is to stop the threat.
Right.
And so those are ways to guarantee stopping the threat. The purpose of shooting them is not to wound them, because if you want to wound someone, then you're not in fear for your life. Yeah. If you have time to aim for a leg or an arm that's moving, like the leg is probably running at you, so it's not still.
Yeah.
The arm is moving, it's not still. If you have time to aim for that, then you're not in fear for your life. People get shot in the leg and arm by mistake. It's just,
I mean, I know.
It's true. I'm not agree. Yeah, it's true. I don't agree with the shootings. I want to put that out there first. Yeah. I do not agree with the shootings, but I'm just being brutally honest.
In a second. Yeah, no, and that's what we need, right? We need context and we need honesty. I would have prefaced this whole show with, if you did agree with the shootings, like, all right, y'all, this is gonna be a controversial one, and I might cuss him out, but it's fine. Okay, so that's the training aspect. And like you said, okay, that's a simple, easy one to explain, right? But in
That's an easy one.
general, how is there training? Like, is there cultural competency training? Is there training for officers and I have a follow-up question, so I'm gonna just put that out there now. But
Okay.
is there training for officers who, let's just say, right, you're in Atlanta, so they live in Canton or Dunwoody, but they're an officer in College Park or Cascade?
So there is a community diversity training
Okay.
that they do offer during the academy, but that's selective. It's not a requirement.
Got
The
it.
state of Georgia and most states require the bare minimum. And usually, I believe the state of Georgia is like 18 weeks
Yeah.
to train to be an actual police officer, where the city of Atlanta and the APD, when I went through the academy, um, we were in there for 26 weeks because of the extra training that APD gave.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of extra training that should be mandatory. There are a lot of things when it comes to training and dealing with different backgrounds, people of color, people with transgender or people with different same-sex lifestyles. There should be training for all of this. And it seems like the training doesn't come until something bad happens. I remember when Atlanta had an issue with same-sex, and they raided a bar, and they titled it the Eagle Raid. And if anyone Googles it, they'll see what I'm talking about. And it was a gay bar, and they went in there, and they were extremely insensitive to their lifestyle, cracking jokes about them, talking about them. They lost a huge lawsuit, and then APD instituted training for dealing with them. And so it's out there, but it's not mandatory. And I can honestly say, even though Atlanta is, it's here, they do a lot extra in the Atlanta Academy to make sure that you have some of those extra things, because if someone's in Dunwoody, they have no clue how to deal. If they've never been around someone in the Bluff or in those zone 1, the zone 4, zone 3, 6, in those places, they have no clue. They don't connect, they don't relate. And it's hard. It's hard for them, it's hard for us, because we don't want to see them.
Right.
And they look at us foreign, because a lot of times the only thing they know about us is the things that the media, the big bad media puts out there about us. So if all they see is the shootings and the killings and the robbings and the this, and social media is the same way. Some of those places like Shade Room and all of those places that put out such horrible depictions of people of color. If that's all they see, when they see us, they swear, why you don't have red hair? They're looking at your hair like, now how your hair is dark. They're like, why is your hair not red or green? Or that's what you're supposed to look like, right?
It used to be, but we won't talk about that.
But there are several training though. Like I remember a class that I still use today in my line of work that I do now, called verbal judo, which Atlanta offers, where it teaches you, and a lot of people need to go back to that class. It teaches you how to talk to people when they're dealing with certain situations. Like it teaches you how to talk to drunk people and how to maybe reason with them, how to reason with people that are upset or people that are dealing with high stress situations. Because when you show up, you're supposed to want to talk them down in a sense. So that class, I use it today and it works very well. And I love it. I wish I could go take it again for a refresher. But I think a lot of people need to learn how to talk to people, because even certain words you say, like, you may pull up and you may say boy all day at home with your friends and so forth. But you pull up to the hood and you say, hey, boy, come here, you got a problem.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the same thing as if you deal with someone of another race from another country.
Yeah.
Certain words are so disrespectful to them. And a lot of the time we don't know.
Yeah.
And so you go to them and you say something that's so harmless to us, but is extremely disrespectful to them. Like, it's like, go to Dubai.
Yeah.
And see how fast you disrespect somebody.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's fun. I mean, like, in a perfect example, just so people really understand this in basic context, right? Like here, one of my homegirls is from the Middle East, and she was telling me one of the worst things that you can call somebody in the village that she's from is a donkey, like literally just calling them a donkey. And here, like, if someone's like, you donkey, you'd be like, what? Like, you know, like you know that they're like trying to slander you, but you'd be like, that was weird. You know what I mean?
That was
Like,
weak. Try again.
right. Like that was hella whack. Try again. But if you spoke to somebody who's from that region of the world, perhaps, like, you call them a donkey and they will cut you. Like, that is their equivalent of like, oh, it's on site, fighting words. Right. And so like that lack of cultural competency is super important. And we see it in the most basic ways. So now we have a lack of cultural competency. And I'm really glad you mentioned this media, because people that follow me and hear me talk all the time know that I talk about the media in the way that we have to like vet the media and, you know, make sure that you're actually following and getting news and information from sources that are not just like bipartisan, but actually are depicting folks with marginalized identities as full humans. Because if you take, and for people who don't know, like the examples that I gave are basically like white suburban areas compared to, you know, quote unquote urban cities, right, where you have lots of Black and brown folk. But so if you take somebody who's from not that particular neighborhood, and then you stick them in there with zero training, zero understanding of the way that the people in that particular hood move, right, that particular area move and talk and engage, and then on top of that, all they have is the constant replaying and reinforcing of, right, like the angry Black woman or the dangerous Black male, the aggressive Black male. Then the second a Black man even breathes too hard, right, like it's a threat.
Yeah.
All of a sudden. And so you have a white person who by nature, we understand how whiteness functions, right? By nature is like, oh, well, I've absorbed all of these notions about Black folk. And since I don't live with Black folk, I don't, you know, engage with them. I don't,
so,
you know, they're not in my neighborhood. Then all I can go off of is what I'm fed. And what I'm fed is that, right? Threat, criminal, aggressive, poorly educated, like all of the things. Well, yeah. And then I'm supposed to go police in a neighborhood where all I'm surrounded with is Black folk that I inherently think are a threat by nature. Well, I'm gonna be stressed all the time. So then if you come up, Mario, and right, like, and Mario is a big man. He's just right, like stature wise. I'm like, big bro is solid. So if you have, right, then like a solid man, 6'2" or taller, right, and not like, and like solid man come up to you, he could be asking for directions. You're already going to be on guard. How many times have I've seen this where like a white officer is just like, and I would actually like you to speak to this because I don't know if this is part of training or if this is like just like a human reaction. I'll see white officers walk up to like groups of folks of color and their hand is already on their gun like 10 feet away. Like, and all they're walking up to do is like, and it'll be after like the Warriors won, and you know, technically we're in the street, but we're not supposed to. And all they're coming to do is say like, hey, like, could y'all get on the sidewalk? Which is a simple request, but they're already ready. Is that part of training? Because the way it looks for us as civilians is like, damn, like you haven't even told us what you want yet, and you ready to shoot us.
Funny. So it's not part of training, no.
Okay.
For a lot of officers, and I'm going to speak for the people that I know and the friends that I have that I saw in the department. When if I sit my hand on the top of my weapon when it's on my duty belt, that's honestly a resting spot for me. Even when I used to work security for side jobs at, you know, Publix and some stores and liquor stores and stuff, there would be nobody in the store. And my hand would literally be resting there, just chilling, because it's just somewhere comfortable to sit my hand, because there's nowhere to keep my hands. Like you'll see officers with their hands like this.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you go through the academy in Atlanta, we have to sew our sweatpants pockets closed. And the reason we sew our pockets closed is so you don't keep your hands in your pockets. Because if your hands are in your pockets and someone rushes you or comes to hurt you, you can't get your hands out fast enough.
Okay.
So Atlanta trains you to not have your hands in your pocket.
Right.
So you'll see somebody, if they're just standing there, a lot of them are fidgeting with their hand, trying to find somewhere. And so they'll either rest it at the top of their duty belt, right in the front.
Yep.
or they'll put one just sitting on the arm, and it's kind of you're standing with your arm just bent,
exactly,
kind of like someone has their hand on their hip.
Yep,
It's
but it's on their gun.
it's just there. But now there are places where, and people that do walk up with their hand on their gun because they're scared.
Yeah.
But that's not a training thing where you train to walk up with your hand on your gun. No.
Okay.
It's not.
So it's one of two things. It's either just like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Because I also see a lot of officers sometimes, which now makes sense to me. They'll put both of their hands on top of each other and just like kind of rest them on their belly if they got like a little bit of right? Or they're sitting them.
We can't put our hands in our pockets.
Yeah, so that makes sense to me. Or like I'm sitting there chilling. But like, okay, let's say you're in motion walking up to a crowd. Would you still, even if your hand on your hip, hand on top of your gun is a resting place, like would you have your hand on your gun?
No, because if I need to touch or grab or use my hands, I'm from New York, so we talk with our hands.
Yeah, right.
So I'm not going to have it there.
Right.
And even with training, if you train properly on your own enough, I've had situations where I've had to pull my gun out on someone, and my hand was nowhere near my weapon, but I got it out so fast, they swore it was in my hand the entire time.
Yeah.
And that comes from training, though. You practice. You're supposed to practice. You're supposed to practice to get it out fast enough. And if you actually practice, then you don't need your hand there because it only takes a fraction of a second to get it out.
Yeah.
And so a lot of that is, like you said, poor training, where if you train to get it out, you're not gonna feel comfortable because they're so scared.
Yeah.
They're comfortable with having their hand there because it's kind of like the Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
And, the guy always has his hand floating over his gun ready.
Yeah.
And then you see the really badass Western guy, his hands are just wherever.
Right.
Because he practiced and he trains and he can get it out faster even with your hand there.
Yeah.
And so, but it's not a training point to walk up to anyone with your hand on your weapon, especially now. And I think a lot of times officers, even now, they need to go through more training now in regards to diversity and dealing with those things because of what's going on. Because even the things that I was trained in, a lot of it doesn't apply to what people are dealing with now.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things need to change.
Yeah.
And they should have changed, but you can't change it by attacking Officer Billy.
Yeah.
You gotta go to the governor's house. We marching to the wrong places.
Yeah, you know what?
Doing the wrong thing.
I want to talk about that because you gave me a really good analogy when we were on the phone the other night. But before we get there, I have a question also around, it's like, let's quickly talk about right, you said like with everything going on right now, there needs to be different training, one. And two, that you don't necessarily agree with all of the shootings, right? Like, and then the last part is I also want to talk specifically because I think this will be a great segue to talk about, to like wrap us up and talk about like where we really need to be focusing our attention is what we as civilians look at as completely unjustified shootings, which result in murder, which cops keep getting away with. For us, we're like, cops keep getting away with murder, but you're like, oh, that's not the case. So let's run through those. So yeah, so one is talk to me about this, like the need for different training.
So just how it's really simple. Just how you have to retrain over and over again to deal with people that have mental illnesses. There's a training class actually out there that was voluntary for me to take, that I decided to take on my own. And it was crisis intervention training, and it teaches you how to deal with them. But just how that training changes and training on gun laws changes, training needs to change. If you need to know how to deal with someone that's schizophrenic, guess what? You need to know how to deal with a pissed off Black man. You have to train for that. And unfortunately, if we got to train to know how to deal with someone that deals with same sex and the things that's insensitive to them, because there's some words that I'm not going to say, but there's some words that our grandparents said we can't say.
Right.
I remember when I moved to Georgia, it was a culture shock for me.
Yeah.
To see so many same-sex relationships. You know what I'm saying? We're coming from, where I'm from, it wasn't out there like that.
Yeah.
So there has to be training for those different, and they gave us a training class on how to deal with people with same-sex and how to be sensitive to them and their thing, and the things that are disrespectful to them and the things that we can and can't say. And so that training needs to keep evolving. It can't be something that you learned back in 2004 and then you don't never need to go through any type of training like that again, because that's the way it's going to be forever. No, it has to change. Things have evolved. training needs to evolve. It's simple. It's easy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so one of the other things that just like around training before we get into like really the shootings and like how we can affect change. Because the way we're doing it now, and I'm not knocking people. You want to go burn down a police precinct because you're so enraged. Do what you feel is best for you and your soul. And then we also need you to do other things, right? Like it's got to be a both.
Gotta be both.
And I keep getting knocked for this all the time, right? Because everyone's like, we shouldn't be. And I'm at what point do we start to prioritize people over property? Because Breonna Taylor is a perfect example. God rest her soul. Like she got no justice, but the neighbor's drywall did. Like the neighbor, and not the neighbors, because let's be clear, they shot into a neighbor, an apartment with a Black family and an apartment with a white family, or residents rather. I don't know if they were family, but residents. And the only charges that came were for basically like wanton endangerment is like basically reckless endangerment, but only for the bullets that went through the walls of the white apartment. Like, I don't even think people realize that. So that being said, I'm really over the whole, like, let the property be, because also y'all wouldn't have property if this country wasn't built on the backs of Black, brown, indigenous folks of color, one. And two, I think Target, the CEO of Target said it best when one of the Targets got burnt down in, I think it was like Minneapolis, or maybe it was St. Paul's. But he was basically like, he was like, I can rebuild a Target. We can't bring Black people back. Like, I can't bring a human back. He's like, I have insurance. We're good. We can't bring these people back. So if you just heard me say, I have no problem with people burning shit down, and you have a problem with that, you should probably just stop listening to the show.
Well, you know, it's funny, and I'll say it quickly. America taught us how to be angry and tear shit up.
Say that.
They
Please
tear
continue.
up everybody's shit. America goes to other countries and we blow up their buildings. We tear up their shit for one person. Just recently, you know, the guy in the White House, remember they killed the general, they blew him up, but they killed him, his security, everybody, and they didn't have nothing to do with it. So like they've taught people how to do. America came to Americans, or Europeans, we'll say it correctly, they came to America and robbed and killed and destroyed until they got what they wanted. And so the only time they listen, nobody listens to Martin Luther King. You know, they say be peaceful, but they killed him. Then they killed Malcolm X. So y'all killed our leaders. So now we out here just following your example. If we tear shit up, and I don't agree with it in a sense, but I understand that they only listen when shit get tore up. When the heads of these insurance companies start calling, they're making those big phone calls to their, you know, political friends, politic friends, and people in places, high places, say, "Hey, listen, y'all got to do something about this shit because they keep burning down their shit. We keep
these premiums are going
That's
up."
the only reason they listen.
Absolutely.
They don't listen to you. If you have a peaceful march and you walk on the sidewalk, you don't get in the street, you stop, you only cross at the crosswalks, won't nobody give a fuck. But the moment you tear up a Wendy's where the food is killing you anyway, everybody pissed off. And they only pissed off because the insurance company people done called and said, listen, the only way they doing shit, they said, we got to do something to appease these people because they tearing shit up, but change the laws. Because we attacking the wrong part of the tree.
So let's talk about that, because that is really the thing. So, and I want to lead us into that, because one of the other conversations that I see a lot that like, I feel like I'm smashing my face against a wall trying to reinforce to people that cops wouldn't be getting away with what we think of as murder if there weren't precedents, laws, and a judicial system that allowed that. There's a system that allows for this. So for example, right? How many times have we seen, I mean, I literally was like, I could just start naming names, but there's too many, right? You know, we read and it's Black man shot or murder or killed, right? Because they never want to call it murdered, even though that's what it is in the headlines. But the headline is like Black man shot or killed in the back while running away. with, you know, no weapon found near him. But then the police come out and they're like, well, my life was in danger. I thought my life was in danger. They previously had a gun. And everyone's argument was, well, yeah, they had a gun, but like they ditched it and kept running. Like, you know, there's like this back and forth. But what matters is, what is the training and what are the laws? So talk us through that a little bit.
So the most of the police departments in the country do not allow you to shoot people in the back. It's part of their policy. And policy and law is two different things. Mm-hmm. Because federally and in the Supreme Court eyes, if someone commits a forcible felony, which is a felony with a weapon, whether it be gun, knife, in that matter, any weapon that can cause bodily harm or death, and they are running away, and you know without a shadow of a doubt they still have that weapon in their hand or in their possession, whether it be in their waistband, in their hand, and so forth, you can shoot them in the back. Because you have the knowledge that they've done the crime, and you know they've done the crime. You see them running with the weapon, whether it's in their waistband and so forth, or you see them run, but you never saw them throw it away. Mm-hmm. You don't see where they throw it. You've had eye contact with them the entire time. You can shoot them in the back, per the Supreme Court. And that's why a lot of times officers are doing a lot of shit that they shouldn't be doing. And we say shouldn't because just like it's legal to shoot them because of that, it used to be legal to own slaves. Mm-hmm. And so just because it's legal doesn't mean it's right.
Right.
And that's why the Supreme Court deals with case laws and write case laws into law, because they realize, okay, yeah, this is legal, but it shouldn't be. Mm-hmm. Like there's so many old laws on the books in a lot of places that people don't realize, like this against the law in a lot of states for adultery. Right. And things of that nature. It's against the law in Georgia for sodomy, which is basically giving head or oral sex.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of laws that need to change. And so leading into the other part, changing the laws is where a lot of our focus needs to be, because if you change the law, then they can't do what they used to do. Mm-hmm. And then they'll start getting real punishments, and then they'll either quit or they'll stop. And so we're literally, it's almost like the police are the apple from the apple tree. Mm-hmm. And we pissed off that we keep getting the apples. Every harvest time, apples coming and we pissed off. So we throw all the apples in the trash, mm-hmm. right? And we say, got rid of all the apples. Hopefully this shit change. Next year, I'm gonna get some oranges. And next harvest, we get some more apples. We gotta get rid of the fucking tree.
Yep.
We gotta change the tree. It's like everybody skipped that part in class when it talked about the judicial system and the parts. They just skipped and forgot. I know I forgot some of it.
I feel like a lot of it wasn't taught. I mean, I know I learned it.
It wasn't taught for real.
But yeah, like it was like, oh yeah, here's 3 branches. But like, I learned it because I'm lucky enough to have grown up in the Bay Area where we have a history of political education and activism and being informed. So those were conversations that like our elders were having with us. Like, y'all need to know this, right? Like, because contrary to popular knowledge, the Black Panther Party started as a political organization that was actually a party that was that had members and representatives. It wasn't, you know, this vigilante mob that the media likes to portray it as. It did phenomenal things for the community. Like, whatever, I could sit here and go on about.
Let's talk about food stamps that they did.
I was just gonna say books and breakfast, food stamps, WIC, like all of the things, right? But regardless, so I was fortunate enough to again like grow up in a place where the elders were like, no, y'all need to know, y'all need to understand your power in voting and who does what and what the relationships are. But if I had to depend on school, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. How it's interesting you say you guys were taught that. I wasn't taught that. When I went to school for it, in the school that I was able to go to because of where I lived, because of what my mother made, it was like a little fun thing, went by real quick. Mm-hmm. And that was it. I think we may have did it with, you know, writing on the wall, hey, what's this and what's that? You kind of put it there, you never touch on it again.
Yep.
But like, we really need to be marching to these council meetings. Mm-hmm. We need to fill up the council meeting. Mm-hmm. We need to find out who are people, the House of Representatives and Senates and stuff, where they live in these states. Mm-hmm. And we need to march to their house. Mm-hmm. You know, we march into empty buildings. Ain't nobody at the Capitol building. Corona. All them people gone. They don't give a damn if we stand outside the empty building. The only people that's there is the Capitol Police. Them the only people that's in that building. Everybody else gone. We gotta go to these council meetings. We need to start marching to the governor's house. Hang out over there. You know, so like we gotta go to places and attack people and the things that can actually make the laws to get real change. All of the stuff that we're getting now is so passive. The painting the name in the street, the getting rid of Aunt Jemima off a fucking syrup bottle, Uncle Ben's off rice. Like I don't. Who cares about syrup and rice? We talking about lives here. That's what y'all comparing it to. You're literally comparing syrup and rice to lives, and it's because we're giving them the opportunity to give us this bullshit change. No, the real change happens when you go to these council member meetings and you start putting people that are a Black and brown mindset that want to protect the community and want real equality in place. Because some of these people get in these offices and they never leave because either nobody runs against them or we don't know, so we don't run for effective change. You know, how many people actually know the senates in their state? Or no, or the council member for their district. We go when we go to move to a house. Only thing we look at is if they got a good school. You know, they got a good school, cool. But we don't realize that the council member over that district is the asshole. You know, and we gotta. That's where the change has to start. If we start attacking those real branches of the government, then guess what? We'll get that orange tree sooner or later. And them damn crab apples gonna stop fucking up our yard.
I mean, and go ahead. I feel like you had another thought. Did I cut you off?
No. I just thought about how I saw the posting for a protest today, and they're marching from the police headquarters to the Capitol building. Well, the people in the police headquarters ain't coming out. They're not coming out, and ain't nobody at the Capitol building. So now, basically, the only people that get to tell the narrative of that story is the media, who is literally fueling. They are the lighter fluid on the race war that's getting ready to happen.
100%.
They love it.
100%. I mean, this is why, you know, if you ask people who aren't actually in tune to what's going on, they're saying these protests are violent and the country is on fire. And then proof just came out like 2 weeks ago. I think it was Wash Post that we like proved it was like only 93% of all protests that have started since May have been 100% peaceful. And the only ones that haven't been peaceful, they like broke, it was like documented that like either the police incited, violence, and it's like taped, and or you had instigators, which also taped, like the police officer that like started breaking the windows of the AutoZone that got outed, and you know, who was like a St. Paul, like, bro, come on, like, it's the internet age. You don't think people are filming you? Like, you're dense. But regardless, you have the agitators and instigators, but either way, you let media tell it. We out here, we've just burnt America to the ground. And if that was the case, what would we still be fighting for then? If the whole shit was in ash,
it's all gone.
It's
all gone. Then there's nothing to fight for.
But I think that this is a really important point that I don't want people to miss. To your point, like when we talk about the police, when we talk about educators, when we talk about doctors, when we're talking about any of these people that are representatives of or functioning within pockets of institutions, we're talking about the apples. And sometimes we get good apples, like you were a good apple. And most of the time we have rotten apples. Sometimes because the tree itself is completely rotted. Sometimes because those people are rotten people. And sometimes you have the intersection of both, And I say that because there are also, I want to be clear, we're not saying that all bad apples are also bad people. There are some people that would say, I'm a great person, I'm kind, I give back. Like, I believe that all, human rights are for everyone, blah, 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 blah. But because they haven't maybe done cultural competency training or unconscious bias training or actually spent time with folks of other identities, their humanness has been programmed still in line with that tree. So you could be a good person and still be a rotten apple. And so we're sitting here
with bad habits.
So we're sitting here, to your point, like we want oranges, but we haven't pulled the tree out from the ground. We haven't uprooted the tree, the apple tree, so that we can then turn over the soil and plant orange seeds. And so in order to do that, yes, like, do we need to be aware of all the things that are going on and be having conversations about the fruit? For sure. But everybody, and so this is a new thing I'm doing on the show. You don't know yet because the show just came out, but everyone has a call to action, right? And the call to action for this episode specifically is, I want everybody to go and look, who is your council member? Who are your elected representatives for your district, for your school board, right? Those are all elected officials, from your mayor to your like Daniel J. Cameron would not have been able to circumvent justice if y'all had not elected that. Y'all elected that man.
Yeah, they elected him. And they elected him because that's the black guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
who's on the short list for Trump. Exactly. But y'all didn't do your due diligence. Not all skin folk are kinfolk. That is a black white supremacist. Okay? So
he's for, well, I wouldn't even say that. I would say he's a black white supremacist. And the reason I'm gonna say that is because I feel like he's in it for himself. I feel like he cares more about self than he does about anything else. And so it's going to put him in position to be, a lot of times people aren't as racist as we think. They just all about themselves. They don't give a fuck about what's going on. Because I know some people that are like, yo, I'm voting for Trump because I'm making more money than I've ever made in my life.
I know a lot of, and I'll say I know a lot of folks of color that have said that. They're like, he's horrible, but I'm in a certain tax bracket, and we argue about it all day long. But the reason that I say that I think he is in fact a white supremacist, like in terms of like upholding it, is because just some of the things he said and voted on in the past, that like, I can understand you wanting to marry Mitch McConnell's granddaughter if you're, if all you are is worried about your network and your, accessibility. Like, the brother is colonized. Clearly, he's trying to increase his proximity to whiteness for his own success. But in moments where like it wouldn't have hurt him, he still chose to uphold whiteness. That's the part that I like, and that's a whole other podcast episode. But that's the part I can't reconcile. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it would have meant boo to you. Like, you could have just done the right thing, you know what I mean? Which was like to center lives or human equity. And like,
he's like the modern day OJ Simpson.
Yes, I'm not black, I'm OJ. Yes.
That's who he is. He's the modern day OJ Simpson.
Power. Yeah, there we go. Yes. But all that being said, the call to action, I want you all to like really go look at who your local representatives are from local to state. And I want you to make sure that you look and see, are they running again? Are they uncontested? Is somebody else running against them? And I want you to actually research these people. I want you to research these people, research how they vote, research what they talk about, research what they're for. And if there is a position that does not have, right, like is running, I don't know if you can call it running if there's no opponent, but technically, quote unquote, right, running unopposed, put that person on your list and start to figure out how you can apply pressure to get them out.
Yeah.
That's what y'all need to be doing.
We need to focus on, we don't need to focus on their campaign, because their campaign is just a trail of lies and deception to get you to vote. We need to look at their actions. The campaign is kind of like action speak, but louder than words. The campaign is just words. Their actions have shown before the campaign. So if you wasn't doing shit for us or the community or for the betterment of Black, brown people and humanity before you decided, hey, I want to run for this place, you ain't gonna do nothing afterwards.
Yep.
You got, and that's what we really need to focus on. We pay so much attention to these debates and these campaigns and all this other shit, but we don't look at none of the shit that they did before that. It's kind of like the motherfucker, they went and killed somebody yesterday, drunk driving. Got drunk, drove, ran through a red light, killed somebody. And then today they're standing up saying, I'm all against drunk driving and alcohol and this and that. And so like, yeah, they're against drunk driving. As soon as they get in office, what do? They get pulled over drunk. And then while they're waiting for the officer, they call the mayor. And they say, hey, mayor, I just got pulled over. So then the mayor called the chief, and the chief called the lieutenant. And then guess what? They call you on your cell phone and say, let him go. And so we have to pay attention. And that's literally exactly how it goes.
Yeah.
They'll call the mayor will call the chief will call the major will call the lieutenant's gonna call the sergeant or call you directly on your phone, and they're gonna have a quick conversation with you. And at that moment, your career can either flourish or die.
Yeah.
And it's all because we didn't pay attention to who we put in office. Like, people don't even realize they can run for council. I remember back home, there was a 26-year-old dude that ran for city council, and he won.
I keep thinking about
you
running.
can run, like
But I feel like I wouldn't last long because I'd be sitting in the meetings looking at people. Why? Like, my whole, my face tells on me. They'd be saying something and I'd be like, ma'am. They'd be like, she gotta go.
The reason I say do it, but the reason I say do it, like, if you're thinking about it, it was put on your heart for a reason.
Yeah, no, that's right.
So the reason I say do it is because you're very open-minded, even though you're very vocal about the things that are going on. You're very open-minded and willing to at least listen.
Yeah, always.
You're not the angry Black woman or the angry whatever. That title doesn't fit you. And so I honestly believe that if you were put in a position to where it's right or wrong, it's like, hey, listen, I had no choice, but this is how you need to change this. Like, I think you'll be very good at educating people on what really goes on. And I think the people will rally behind you. Especially once they think, oh, she's not white.
Right. I don't know what she is, but I know she's not white.
She's not white. First they're gonna say, I'm not running for that white lady. It's like, hold on. You gotta bring the family tree out.
Just bring everybody.
You gotta when you run.
United, just sure all the United shades of melanin. Everybody.
Yeah, you gotta bring your ancestry with you.
So I do. I do. Always.
But no, for real, I think it would be good if you ran, because then you would give people a run for their money. Even if you didn't win, you would make people show some of their true colors, because they're gonna have to answer your question.
Yeah, and you know how I am when I got a question.
Yeah, and that's where the change can come, because you make people. It's like, it's either shit on the pot or get up. And so even if that's the only change you running would bring, it's enough, and it will put a battery in a lot of these people's backs. Because they missed the opportunity when Obama was in office. He supposedly gave people hope. Well, what did they do with this hope?
Not a thing.
Like, did people run for these positions to make effective change? Because the council member is the one who can fix your street in your district.
Right.
That big ass pothole that keeps tearing up your 28-inch rims on your 85 Celebrity. Your council member is the one who can fix that pothole. Yeah. With a phone call. Your council member is the one that can have an officer. If you got an officer in your neighborhood and he's treating someone like shit, and he keeps doing it, the governor, going to the governor, calling the president ain't gonna do shit. You can get in contact with your council member quicker than you can get in contact with a lot of them people. And guess what? That same phone call that got that other council member off from that ticket and going to jail is the same phone call that would get that officer transferred somewhere. And get him up, either transferred, fired, or get people to start looking at what he's actually doing. I remember, because I'm on my rant, so I'm about to bring it back. I remember when I was a police officer, and I worked in Zone 4, and people, if you don't know anything about Atlanta, Zone 4 is a place.
I'm like, yep.
I actually picked to work in Zone 4, because when you're in the academy, you get to pick where you want to go, and I picked to work over there, and I picked it because I felt like I could relate. I know how to talk to my people.
Yeah.
I know how to talk the drunk guy off the ledge, because I talk my drunk friends from doing drunk stuff when we out drinking and partying, just like everybody else. Just police, drink, and party, just like everybody else. So I know how to talk my friends out of going home with that dude who we know he got herpes. She don't know she drunk. I know how to do these things, and so I wanted to work with my people. But I said that to say, I remember they offered for me. They said, "Hey, we got a position up in Buckhead, which is Zone 2. Hey, I was gonna put you in for consideration on going if you wanted to go. Get out of the hood." And I told them no. I said, I don't want to go up there. And they said, why? I said, because I'm gonna get in trouble up there. They don't understand me. The people up there don't understand me. People in the hood over here, They understand how I talk. I know how to talk to them. I can relate to them. You know what I'm saying? I can say, yo, what up, dog? And they're not angry.
Right.
I can say, what's going on, big dog? Or what's going on, pimp?
Yep.
And they're not angry. But if I go up here to the Chick-fil-A on Peachtree Street in Buckhead, and I say, yo, what's going on, pimp? He might get angry.
Yeah.
I can't believe he just called me a dog.
Yeah.
No, I was just talking.
It's a term of endearment.
Send me back to my people.
Yeah.
And so I literally stayed over there. I never worked in any other zone outside of specialized units when I was citywide or statewide. But I stayed over because I wanted to help my people. And sadly, now I'm seeing a trend of my police friends who are actually some of the good apples. They're quitting. They're leaving and they're quitting, and they're not. And it's not because I know people are going to say, well, they should stay so they can make the change. No, they're tired of getting grouped up, just like we're getting tired of getting grouped into being all black men or thugs. They're getting tired of being grouped. And so they're literally, like my buddy Ty said, they're one mistake away from indictment and one bullet away from death. And so they'd rather just go ahead and quit and not deal with it and try to fight from a different standpoint opposed to being on the inside where they can actually help us.
Yeah.
So we got to be mindful because the bad cops ain't quitting.
Right.
They ready to stand and fight, and they ready to take it right on back to the slave patrol.
Listen.
And get it knocking.
Yeah.
The good officers is like, yo, I'm out of here. Because the bad officers and the good officers don't hang together.
Right.
Oh, dang, that's another story, but it looked like we might be in this zone. But I remember we had a guy in zone 4. Never went on a call with this guy. Been out there for like 3 years. And we never crossed paths except for in the precinct. And he came on a call to help. We had a really bad situation in the neighborhood. And it was like families fighting and it was bad. And he pulled up when we asked for help. And he told the one kid, he said, hey, little nigga, come here. Yeah. And when I tell you.
Oh, hell no.
The entire community, officers included, because I looked at him like, yo, what's wrong with him? The community stopped. Everybody stopped.
Family's not even fighting anymore because now there's a whole I can imagine.
I thank him for ending the fight because he ended the fight instantly.
I'm sure.
And then all the attention turned to him, and it was like, get in the car, bro. Get the fuck off my scene. I got it. So he left, and they were all in our face like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? I'm like, we got this. We literally, me and my partner. And I think you've met him before, and I'll tell you after we get who he is. We went to the precinct immediately and complained. We called internal affairs, complained, and they transferred him the next day. And 3 months later, he quit. And it was because the good officers and the bad officers do not hang. We don't know. Yeah. It's like, it's cliques, cliques everywhere, whether it's school, work, it's the same kind of clique. I hang with my friends.
Yeah.
The small group of them, we hang together. They hang with their friends. And when they get around their friends, they nigga. But when they get around us, hey, bro. Hey, bro. I feel like bro, for a lot of people, is their way to disguise nigga. So don't call me bro. I'm not your bro.
Yeah.
Like, and that's how I look at it now. Don't call me bro. I'm sorry, because I feel like you're trying to hide what you really want to say, because that's not what you say when you're at home.
Right.
I know it's not. You get on the news and you watch the news and you say, look at them niggas. You don't say, look at them bros.
Right.
Look at my bros on TV burning down the Wendy's. And in fact, we didn't burn down the Wendy's.
I was just going to.
My daughter from Buckhead, she burned down the Wendy's.
Oh, my followers know, because the Atlanta fam sent me that video real quick. And they were like, girl, it was a white girl. Here's the video. And I posted it. And I was like, shout out to my people in Atlanta. And I was like, just in case anyone asks, we didn't do this.
Yeah.
That video's on my timeline.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's what happens. And so, it's interesting.
Yeah. Well,
we just have to.
I'm also really glad that you mentioned the Slave Patrol, because where I'm doing next episode that's coming out is actually literally called From Slave Patrol to Policing, the racist history of the institution. Like, that's everything that we're talking about. Because I think that's also a really important note that people don't understand. So when you talk about gangs, like, so I always say like bang bang anti-racist gang. So it's like within the policing, you either have like quote unquote anti-racist gang, right? So good cops.
Yeah.
Or you have slave patrol. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Those
and it's
are the
crazy because
gangs.
even within the police department, there are still gangs within the police department, real gangs. Like they get the matching tattoos and you can hang out at their bar.
Yep.
They have their own bar where only, you know, I don't know what to call them. We'll call them the Deadly Knights. Only the Deadly Knights hang out at this bar. So, you know, they the Deadly Knights. And some people aspire to be with them.
Right.
And so you have them, and then they don't hang with the good apples.
Right.
You know, you'll never see them. They may show up on the scene, fuck some shit up and leave.
Yep.
You know, but within them Deadly Knights, they making rank. They're doing all of these things. And then I'm gonna get off my rant with, I think we have to stop teaching our children to pushing them towards sports. I think we need to stop doing that, because the KKK stopped hanging us in the street, and they started teaching their children to be lawyers and doctors and council members and Congress members and presidents and presidents and presidents and all of these things. And we still trying to be the best football player. We running out here to be the best mandingo we can be. You know, that's what we raising our kids, man, you're gonna be great in basketball. You told me he was gonna be a mandingo from birth.
Yeah.
We make them, they need to be doctors and lawyers, because just like that doctor, when you come in from that gunshot wound, when you're an innocent bystander and you had nothing to do with that gang shooting, and they see that big black man on the table with dreads and a beard, they swear he was in the gang.
Yeah.
And so guess what? He's not going to go that extra mile to save you, because he really don't give a damn about black people.
Right.
Because his parents, they're all KKK members a long time. And so, but you don't know, because he's not going to come to work and say that. He's going to come to work. He might have a black wife. He's going to disguise it very well. And guess what? You won't know, because you're going to be dead.
Right.
Because you still teaching your kid to play sports, and you got him over here getting concussions in the peewees.
Yeah.
Opposed to teaching, hey, you could be the greatest doctor. You could be a surgeon general, son. You could be the head of the CDC and give us the truth about Corona, son. You could be the judge that doesn't give another black kid 10 years for the same nickel bag of weed that white kid had, and he got 2 years probation.
Right.
You could be them. We push them straight towards it. I wouldn't give a damn if my son was the softest. Well, no, I wouldn't care if he's soft. I wouldn't care if he was the most uncoordinated kid on the planet, as long as he did something positive with his life.
Yeah.
But we just got to change it, man. We got to change the narrative, man.
Your son also just wouldn't make it if he was soft, because the way that we impose roast culture as a love language.
It's part of the love. It's a love language.
It's a love language. We just, we need him to know that it's okay to be emotional and sensitive, but we need you to we need to have grit, because you're gonna get roasted from birth.
We're gonna talk about you, dude.
Yeah.
If you fall, as long as you ain't dead,
we gonna laugh.
Yeah.
People are like, what kind of family? Listen, we're just honest, okay?
That's it, just honest.
Well, I appreciate you for being here, Brett. I really do.
No problem.
This like I said, every time you talk about any of your experiences in policing, I learned something. So I knew that you were definitely the voice that I wanted to bring in and just like give these nuggets to people, because I really want to push people to start thinking about, it's not just the police, right? Or it's just not the fruit. We need to look at the tree branches. We need to look at the trunk. We need to look at the root, and we need to figure out how to do that, and how to literally cut it down, tear out that root, so we can replant something else. So y'all have your calls to action. You know what to go research. It is imperative that you do this now. We have elections coming up, and it is not enough to just vote federally at the presidential level. We need to vote top down, bottom up, for everything from school board to presidency. So I appreciate you. I love you. And that's all I got.
You too, though.
All right.
Deuces.
Bye, y'all.
And now for Ask Weaves, a segment where you get to pick my brain for free.
Hey, Katie, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm super honored that you're here. I appreciate you spending some time with me.
Thank you. This is great. I love this. This is really fun.
Cool. All right. So, what's on your heart, Katie?
Building community.
Oh.
So I know that you talked a little bit about this on the last community call, and I'm sure it's on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah.
For me, I've been doing, I think, what a lot of people have been doing, which is changing relationships, ending relationships, seeing things a little differently, kind of reevaluating. So building community is really, really heavy on my mind, and like the best sort of ways to do that, going into it differently, sort of like with an elevated viewpoint than I previously had. And I'm looking for advice.
So,
looking for some advice.
We're we're at the intersection of so many different kinds of pandemics, right? Racism has always been a pandemic and never went anywhere, but now we have an actual viral pandemic, which has very seriously impacted how we can create and or engage with community, right? Because social distancing and quarantining and self-quarantining, and even if you can be with people, like, can only be who you live with, or like less depending on where you are, right? Like I know right now in California, I think it's like 4 people or less, or so it's hard. And then obviously on top of that, to your point, people are showing their asses, like, simply put, right? Because you cannot right now escape the conversation of racist versus anti-racist. We cannot escape in the United States. I mean, globally, honestly, because even my international community is having conversations about our upcoming American election. And, all of 45's, I don't even want to call them values because they're not valuable, but beliefs. That's a better way to put it. The beliefs. And so we're realizing that, for example, I am not exempt from realizing, like, oh, we've been friends since we were 7. And I'm now just learning about you, that you hold a particular type of belief that is so deeply out of alignment with my value system. And now we can't be friends. Bye. And it's really hard. And for a lot of folks, obviously for folks who've been in this work a long time, or for folks who hold marginalized identities or multiple marginalized identities, you've already, because of the nature of society, had to like piece together a community that is in alignment with your values. But for a lot of folks, it's not the case. And for a lot of white folks, especially, there's this feeling of extreme isolation and loneliness, right? I think it's really important for me to name explicitly. It is not lost on me. I see it all the time, especially with a lot of my clients, right? And we talk about it in our community call in Podia. How many people have had to literally cut off parents? Like, people are getting divorces.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, you don't want to raise your kid as an anti-racist? You have a problem with me trying to raise my kid as an anti-racist? Well, we can't be married anymore because I'm learning things about you. So I say all of that to, one, ground us into this conversation, right? And the reality of it. But to answer the question around community, it's funny because I had a conversation earlier with someone today, and I literally said, I was like, we all have to get back to the like version of ourselves as kids that were just like, hey, do you want to be friends?
Yes.
Right? Like, literally, like,
yes.
Like, you like the same juice that I like. Like, do you want to be friends? It's a little bit more evolved than juice, but really, like, we have to get back to that. And so that's the first thing that as grown-ups, as grown adults, we have to overcome, because we've been taught, right? No new friends, and oh, you don't just randomly talk to strangers, and you don't do those things. It's such a social faux pas, which I think is such bullshit. That, like, if you see somebody that you're like, oh, I kind of dig you, like, we kind of seem like we'd vibe, that, like, you're not supposed to want to build community with them. Like, where did we get that? How did that start? Right? So that's really the first thing, is like, for you, if that's like an obstacle that you have, or like just for folks listening, we got to get back to the kid versions of ourselves, like literally playground versions of ourselves that were like, oh,
you're an anti-racist too? Let's be friends. Like, oh, you also believe that Black Lives Matter, or that trans women are just women, or trans men are just men and shouldn't have to qualify themselves? Oh, you don't believe in the gender binary. Oh, you don't believe in concentration camps for immigrants. Oh, look at that. We have things in common, right? We should be friends.
No, it doesn't matter what color is your favorite.
Right. Like, exactly, right? It's a little bit more about, and then yes, those things matter. Like, how do you feel about Beyonce is a qualifying question for me, right? Like, it's fine. But but I think that's the first step, is like really getting okay with actually reaching out and asking people, like, do you want to be friends? I do that, like, even now, right? Like, I'm about to be 35 in like a couple 3 months, and I still, as a full ass grown 35-year-old, will ask people like, do you want to be my friend? Like, and now because of COVID, it's like, do you want to have a Zoom hangout and see if we vibe? And you'd be so surprised. People are like, yes, I do. That sounds amazing. I thought you'd never ask.
Yeah.
Legit just happened to me yesterday. Like, there's this amazing woman in New York who I've like kind of seen her work. She's a documentarist, and just happened to find out that one of my really good friends like had interviewed her for something previously. And I was like, oh my God, can you email introduce us? And she did. And then I responded and was like, I really just want to see if we vibe, and I really dig what you're doing in the world, and like, do you want to hang out on Zoom? And she was like, yes, the fuck I do. And I was like, this is amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that.
But it happens all the time, right? But we've taught ourselves, we've convinced ourselves that like, ew, no, why would anybody, ew, no, I don't want to be your friend. Like, how dare you ask me to be friends with you, Katie? Right? Like, but that's not actually the case. As human beings, we actually crave and need community and human connection, right? So, and a lot of people feel so alone because of the pandemic in general. And then you layer on, right, the ways in which relationships are severing because of the civil rights movement, and people really having to declare which side of the line they're on, right? Racist or anti-racist. People need people right now more than ever.
Yeah.
People need to not feel alone, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is start digging into the spaces that that you trust. So like, for example, my comment section in my IG, there are and it like really makes me happy. There are so many people that will literally say something like, respond and say, I just, lost my best friend like over this issue, right? And I'm grieving that end of that relationship, and I'm feeling like I don't have community. And people are like, oh my God, me too. Can I DM you? And then they're like, yes, please. It's so cool to see. Right. So, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, look, if you vibe out or you see somebody in the comment section and they say something that resonates with you, like, reach out to them. Like, comment and ask for consent.
That's awesome. I love that.
But like, do that. And so I say that to say the same way, as kids, we're like, we make friends with the people on our soccer teams or our dance team or whatever, right? Like, we don't really have those now. One, it's COVID, and two, like, that's far less, quote unquote normalized. Like, I don't know. I was on a kickball team for fun as a grown up, right? Like, I made friends there, but like, do it in the comment section, right? Like, yeah, like where are you hanging out? And are there people hanging out in those same places that you're like, huh, I've seen something about them that would make me want to like align with them, or that maybe they have a shared experience, and just reach out.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I feel like I'm 39 and I just missed like the huge wave of social media. I feel like I'm a grandmother on social media. And so I'm always like, I don't know.
Oh, I'm like, let us be clear.
Can I
am anti-social media. Like, don't let the follower count fool you. I don't enjoy it. I got on Facebook 2 years ago, and secretly I'm so glad that I got completely banned, because I was like, well, guess I got to delete Facebook. I don't enjoy it. I don't get
Can't
it.
do it.
Like, I have to Google how to TikTok, and I don't even TikTok. Like, I just don't. I'm pretty sure I do wrong. It's not curated. I don't care. Like, I'm bad at it. But
yeah.
You know how to follow, right? You know how to comment and post.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. I love that. Yeah. I think there's that's really helpful to just hear it like that, because I feel like I have this like, I'm way over here on this. Like, I would ask just to be your friend, and I would be like, what did you think about yesterday? I would like, just, that's what I want to know about people. But I'm like, I shouldn't ask like those kinds of questions. I should just be, so I kind of compensate and err on the side of like, I should just, you know, ask the normal questions when I'm really want to be like, I want to know all these fun things about you.
Yeah. No, I say ask the fun things.
Yeah.
Do it. And look, I get it, right? One of the most common reflections that I get back from folks that DM me, and to be fair, I don't see all DMs because I get a shit ton of them. But when I do, I like respond like a regular ass person, right? So like people are asking me about my puppy that's about to give birth. And I'm like, I'm freaking the fuck out because we're about to deliver this puppy. And I've been on YouTube looking for hours, like researching how to deliver puppies. And they're like, oh my God, you responded like, and like gave me information. I'm like, why wouldn't I? And again, I get it, right? Because we haven't normalized that. We haven't normalized basic human conversation. We haven't normalized making the little things like important.
I love
Go
that,
do it, Katie. I love that. Go ask people the quote unquote weird questions. Granted, I'm weird as hell, so I think it's great. But do
I like
it.
all that stuff.
Do it. And
That's a great idea.
I think you would be super, super surprised at how many people would be like, yeah, Katie, I do want to talk to you. You know, or like, I like the simple questions, or thanks for asking me how I feel about Beyonce. Like whatever, right? Like, hella normal.
What's
hella
really
simple.
important.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
so,
I love that.
And the other thing I will say, in all fairness, is I recognize how hard it is, and I recognize, right, especially when we're feeling more divided than ever, that it can feel a little daunting and overwhelming to just put yourself out there and be like, be my friend. And because we've also made that mean something about us, like, oh, I must be a loser and uncool. Like, nah, I want to be friends with everyone. And I think I'm pretty cool. I mean, I'm biased, but you know, like that's the other thing is like, spend some time gassing yourself up, Katie. Right? How dope is Katie? How cool is Katie? Why does everyone want to be friends with Katie? And then remind yourself of that anytime you start to feel like no one is going to respond to me. No one's going to want to be friends with me. People want to be friends with you. I promise.
That's awesome. I really like that. Now we just need an anti-racist dating website or app.
So it's funny you say that because when I was single,
scary world.
Yeah. When I was single and on the markets, I wrote a whole blog post about, and it was going to be it was like Tinder for anti-racist, but it was going to be called Nazi or Nah. Yes. So maybe I should make it.
Do it. Yes, please. Like, please. It's a scary world not knowing.
Yeah. And it was really going to be called Nazi or Nah. And I was like, I don't really have the capacity to make a dating site or an app because that's not my lane. But like, I was like, Tinder, Bumble, Plenty of Fish, Hinge, y'all should just have an option on there that literally, like, you know, when you're filling it out, it says like, are you a Nazi or nah? And you just pick yes or no.
I know. It would be so, that's all I want to know.
Yeah. And then you just filter people out. You're like, oh no, I don't want to date Nazis. But you know what? Sadly, they want to date each other. That's why they keep procreating and we keep having more of them. So cool. But like, leave the rest of us alone.
Yes. And I don't think they want to date me because we're not going to have fun conversations.
Also that, exactly. They're going to be like, God, Katie, I just want to talk about how much I hate people for their identities. Ugh. Why do you keep telling me I have to consider other people's humanity? Such a killjoy. Never get any fun. Right? Like, yeah, they don't want to date you either. Maybe I'll do it.
Right out.
Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll create this.
Oh my gosh.
Where are all my app developers? I have all the app ideas for a dating site, actually.
Yes.
For all the reasons I wasn't on dating sites.
Right.
I feel like I should create one that like answers all those questions because I'm not the only one.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. It's really, you just don't really know.
Yeah.
And it's already weird to be in that world, but
I know.
It's very weird.
I'm very thankful.
Dating is not fun.
Yeah, it's not. No, girl, who are you telling? I hate dating. I'm so glad I don't have to do it.
It's the worst.
It's
the worst.
I'm gonna pray for you.
Thank you.
Oh my God. I just had an idea.
What is it?
I'm gonna do matchmaking on my IG. And then I expect to be invited to everybody's wedding. Okay, this is happening.
Obviously.
No, I'm not kidding. This is really happening. I'm about to post right now as soon as we get off.
Oh, I love that.
And it's literally going to be like, post in the comment section where you're from, what you do, like so on and so forth. I'm just going to like start, like I'm going to start a thread.
I love this. It's the best. It's the best idea I've heard in a long time.
And I'm going to create a container. And it's like, if you put your information, this is what you're consenting to. This is how we're doing this. Okay, this is happening. It's done. Pay attention. It's coming.
Best call ever.
Yeah, best call ever. We're good. See, look at that. Not only are you going to find a community,
look what you're
going to find a whole partner. Minutes. I know. It's all I need to solve all the world's problems.
I know. And maybe a maid of honor. I mean, my God.
Listen, I fully expect to be invited to your wedding if you find your partner on my
For
page.
sure.
Are you kidding?
For sure.
I love weddings and I love love. I literally love weddings and I love love. And I want everyone to invite me to their wedding.
There's
and
nothing better.
A great gift giver. So everyone that's listening.
You just made 700 new friends because not only will you matchmake everyone, bring an amazing gift.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Look at that. And all I want is friends.
And we're all going to just be asking to be friends now.
Exactly. So I don't know. Maybe this has sparked some idea. Maybe I have to do a little bit more to bring community
I'm
together.
so glad.
So I'll do what I can,
I love
Katie,
this.
I promise.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Super
Can I answer
happy
anything else?
Oh yeah, what's your favorite desert island food?
Ooh. Ceviche.
Oh, really?
Yes. So
oh my gosh.
My partner, he makes fun of me because anytime we go on vacation to like anywhere remote or anywhere, like literally anywhere, I only eat ceviche. That's it. Because ceviche in the States is cool. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of really good ceviche restaurants. But like there's something about, like you said, desert island. I'm like, oh, well, obviously if I'm on a beach, there's something specifically about anywhere that has sand. I don't want anything but ceviche and limes and amazing, like perfectly salted tortilla chips. That's it.
Oh my God. Yeah. There's nothing better than a tortilla chip that's perfectly salted. It's like a food group. Chips and salsa is an actual food group.
It is. And I will fight anybody that says otherwise.
For sure. Yes.
Like, I'm not arguing with people about a few things. One, Black Lives Matter. Two, chips and salsa. Food group.
Yes.
Also, have you had Juanita's chips?
No.
Oh
my gosh.
Just changed your
I wonder
life.
if they have them here.
They have them everywhere. They started in LA. Like do you have like Safeway or Rallies or like a Vons?
No,
Wegmans, yeah. Okay. Like any kind of major chain, but even like I'm not a great fan of Walmart, but like even the Walmarts of the world, like Juanita's is like carried for the most part everywhere. If not, you can order them online. It'll change your life. And I fully expect a DM after you eat them.
Okay. Definitely.
You're welcome.
Definitely. I've mastered salsa during quarantine. It's been like the biggest achievement ever is mastering salsa. Yeah. So all I need now is like the different chips to like eat it with.
Yeah. So Juanita's will change your life.
I will eat my chips as I'm looking for my soulmate in the comment section of your Instagram.
Look, it sounds perfect.
It's beautiful.
It's perfect. That was a really good question. That might have been the best question I've ever heard, actually. But yeah, ceviche.
Mine is tacos.
Oh yeah,
hands down.
Yeah. Also, see, so if we were on a desert island together, we'd have a full meal.
Yes, I know.
Tacos and ceviche.
I know.
So cool. At your wedding, though, like I need ceviche. I'm just a request.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, that's okay. It goes really, really well with my whole theme already.
Oh, so, perfect. I don't even need like a lot of it. I just need like a good like 12, 16 ounces.
One serving for you.
Yeah, and everyone else.
One for you, one for your partner.
Yeah.
That's it.
He and I will eat ceviche and everyone else can eat whatever else. Obviously, that's not that big of an ask. I know it's your wedding and everying, but this is about
We're having a taco truck. So that's the only special prepared item.
Cannot wait to come.
Great. I love that.
All right, Katie. Thank you so much for being here. This was a really fun conversation.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. And
awesome.
I'll see you in the comment section of my dating post.
Yes, you will.
All right. Bye.
Okay. Bye.
All right, y'all. Thanks so much for tuning in. Rate, review, subscribe, like, share this podcast with all of your peoples. Follow me on Instagram. And you can always join me in community over at Podia. Until next time.